Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. And this is for all the fans of the people who like duty skeletons, because we are going to be looking at the army of renown for the Soulblight Gravelords called the Barrow Legion. This is going to be a really interesting look at exactly the problem with Barrow Knights, or if you're a fan of skeletons on horses, exactly the best bit about Barrow Knights, because it's pretty cool when we start breaking it down. Okay, so in the new Soulblight Gravelords book that just released last week or this week, or it's in a FOMO box, it's being released at some point. No, the points aren't out yet. They don't release them with the books anymore. Do I think that's stupid? Yes. Will we find out what they are eventually? Yes. Will I make a tier list? Yes. All of those things are a yes or a no, depending on which way around you need them to be. However, right now, we're going to look at the other army of renown. Now, I've already seen the last video where I talked about all the vampires. You can run and charge and have a really good vampire army. But actually, and probably, I didn't put enough emphasis on how good the Barrow Knights are going to be, which we're hopefully going to break down in this video. So the first thing we'll look at are the battle traits for the Barrow Legion. If you're not quite sure how armies of renown work, what happens is you give up the battle traits for your main, for the army normally, and instead you get given a new bunch of battle traits. Also, the armies are more restrictive, so you can only take certain units. In this case, for the Barrow Legion, you can take any Death Rattle units. Death Rattle is a keyword that you can find located at the bottom of War Scrolls. Here you can see Death Rattle keyword located there. So it's going to be all of your skeletons, all your little bony fellas. Okay? Right. So that's what you're able to take, and you're not allowed to take any regiments of renown. This does mean immediately no access to a wizard. Okay, so no wizard is obviously a pretty massive downside to why you would run this army. And kind of spoilers, we're not going to want to run this army, but we are going to want to run a bunch of Barrow Knights. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So no wizards. So you're not going to be able to stop manifestations. You're not going to be able to cast manifestations. So, you know, generally a bad vibe. However, let's keep going. Now, if you've noticed in the latest Soulblight Gravelords release, they released a terrain pack. It was a bunch of pieces of terrain, and they make up 3 cursed sepulturas. Okay, and you've got a special ability for deploying that faction terrain. Once per battle in the deployment phase, you've got to use this. And what you do is you put all 3 cursed sepulturas within half an inch of each other and more than 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain features. If you have done so, they have been deployed and they are considered to be a single cursed sepultura terrain feature that has a health characteristic of 24 instead of 8. Okay, now, really cool that it's got a really high health pool. That's good. Downside, unfortunately, is because the terrain maps are preset on Games Workshop maps, it's going to be close to difficult, maybe close to impossible on several maps to deploy this as a single piece of terrain if you can do it at all. But I guess a bonus thing that you can do with this, if you are able to do it, is you're going to be able to create sections of the board where your opponent isn't going to be able to land large bases or other pieces because you can't sit on top of terrain. What you can effectively do is you can create a zone where, if you're able to put your terrain down, where until your opponent attacks it and kills it, so you can destroy terrain in here, your opponent can't engage. It's actually not really fun for either of the 2 players, you know, apart from like that moment where you say to your opponent, I can just put this here, and you're not gonna be able to go there until you kill it. And your opponent's gonna go, that seems unfair. And then you say, I know, but in 2nd edition, I literally lost games because people put Ideneth Deepkin boats in front of me. And then you'll be like, that sounds dumb. You'll be like, it is dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb that 6 years later, we're reading the same thing again. Correct. Okay, so that's the terrain feature. Now, you also gain the ability to give up to 2 more artifacts. Normally you can have 1, but you're able to choose an additional 2 artifacts for non-unique Barrow Legion heroes once per battle in the deployment phase. So that means 3 of your characters are going to be able to have artifacts. That's cool. If the artifacts are good, we'll look at those in a moment. You do get 2 passive abilities. The first one is Grave Sentinels. Melee weapons used by friendly Barrow Legion units have anti-charge +1 rend. So if you charge, you've got +1 rend, while they're wholly within 9 inches of a friendly cursed sepultura. However, there's only 1 cursed sepultura on the board. So that means that, and it's also deployed in your territory. So as long as they're charging you wholly within 9 inches of that 1 giant piece of terrain in 1 section of the board, then you're going to be then you're going to be okay. And then finally, All to Dust is a passive where in the third, what I'm trying to say about that ability is it's almost likely never to come up and is also not that good. And then All to Dust is another passive where in the third and subsequent battle rounds, while friendly Curse Sepultura is on the battlefield, so it's a stipulation, your giant piece of terrain, which is massive and is going to be chargeable from pretty much anywhere on the board, and it's not that survivable. If that is still on the board, you can subtract 1 from save rolls for enemy units. Now, that's actually really good, although it's obviously a double stipulation. 1, the piece has to survive, and also number 2, obviously, it only happens from the third battle round. So it means if you do engage with your opponent early, thankfully your infantry is quite slow. So you're not going to be charging up the board turn 1 unless you're running around with some knights and stuff. This is going to be a toughie to also really be effective later in the game. Okay, so our last piece is Endless Legions of Bone. Once per battle, this is our last ability in a kind of battle traits. The Endless Legions of Bone, pick a friendly non-unique Barrow Legions unit that has been destroyed to be the target. You can set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, hold within 12 inches of a hero or within 6 inches of a cursed Sepultura. It must be more than 9 inches from all enemy units. And if it's your movement phase, there's some other changes to this as well. Now, this is good because this is taken from the other battle trait that obviously you have for Soulblight Gravelords. So it's just a copy and paste. That's obviously Sage Sigma 4. What would it be without a good old copy and paste, eh? Don't have a bone to pick with me about it. It's not my fault. But getting to the marrow of the situation, nice. I'm just going to drop in as many as I can. This is good because if this was not here, then it would be really, really silly. Because really you're asking yourself, why am I running the Army of Renown versus why am I doing the Army of Renown versus playing the main, battle traits? And the answer is you're not, but we're going to cover it in detail anyway. Okay, so heroic traits, you've got 3 to choose from on your army list. You're going to write them down. First one, Restless Tyrant, best one. Pick a friendly Barrow Legion unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Add 2 inches the target's move characteristic for the rest of the turn. That means your Barrow Knights are going faster. It means an infantry unit's going faster as well. If it was an infantry unit, obviously you're going to be able to use the Field Sergeant, General's Handbook upgrade, to be able to make a unit move 2 inches faster as well. But that's only going to last for the next 3 months. Summer of 2025, that's going to go away. So, but that does mean you could get some pretty fast skeletons, fast as fuck, right? Which would be crazy, just watching a skeleton move 8 inches. You're like, what's happening here? So that's the best one. The Spirit Eater at the end of any turn. If any models are slain by your general, you can heal D6. That's pretty good because it's the end of any turn, which is the end of every turn. So you can keep your hero topped up pretty nice. And the Lord of Arcane Aegeus in the deployment phase lets you pick an enemy unit with a keyword like infantry, cavalry, monster, or beast, and then you will always have a permanent 4-up save against them unless you already have something better like a 3-up save. This is actually mathematically really terrible because if you all-out defense from a 3-up save, which most of your heroes have, you go down to a 2-up, meaning they need Ren 3 for it to work. Also, obviously, all-out defense works against any keyword. This is only against certain keywords. So I'm not really a big fan of this. This won't make up the backbone of your army. Shout out to Heretics for that one. I appreciate you. Okay, so you're going to choose Restless Tyrant. Well, you're not going to choose it because you're not going to run this army, but that would be the one you would choose. Right, Artifacts of Power. You've got 5 to choose from, which is cool because you can take up to 3. Nice. First one, easy peasy, Ring of Stricken Souls, 5-up ward save. Love it. You already got a 6-up ward save, but statistically a 5-up ward save is so much more effective. Big thumb on that. The Grave Sand Pendant. If this unit will be destroyed before removal from play, roll a dice on a 3-up, comes back, or damage is removed and you heal 1, and then you can't use it again for the rest of the battle. So a 3-up, keep your character alive. Pretty nice. Now we've got 2 ways of keeping characters alive. Much more. Nothing really to force multiply our army. The Amulet of Nightmares is very good. Once per battle in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit within 9 inches. Roll a dice on a 2+, the target has strike last. So that's this one just here. That one's probably the best one, actually, because you're running the Barrow Legion. Well, you're not going to. But if you were, then you would want loads of combat, right? And you need something to strike last so you can hit, right? And then you've got the Crypt Dagger, where pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit to be the target once per battle, and you can inflict D6 mortal damage. So get a hero in, D6 damage once per battle. Seeing as you get some of these, you get 3 artifacts if you take 3 heroes. I guess that one's okay. My personal list so far is definitely the He's strike last one. That's the best. You've also got the Crown of Cold Command, where once per turn in any hero phase, which means every hero phase, pick a friendly Barrow Legion unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit, roll a dice on a 3-up. You can heal 3. If the target is not damaged, return a number of slain models up to a combined health characteristic of 3. That's also any hero phase, which means every hero phase. That's pretty good because a characteristic of 3 is very good because Barrow Knights have got 3 health. Okay, so going to take a moment to look at the heroes. You can see here that, and the units. Okay, what does this army really want us to do? Well, with its battle trait, it kind of wants us to build a giant crypt, and it wants us to protect it. It wants us to have anti-charge, and later in the game get plus rend. Okay, so we're going to start with our infantry units and kind of have a conversation about that. Our Death Rattle Skeletons are 10 health. Or 20 health if we reinforce them, but they've only got a 5-up save. Okay, they have got a 6-up ward save, but that's not very survivable. So 20 health, 5-up, 6-up. They're not good in combat with 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, 0 rend. So anti-charge is going to get us +1 rend. And in the third battle round onwards, technically we'll get rend 2. 41 attacks with a champion. A bit of rend, not that spicy, to be honest, a little bit embarrassing. And also the survivability is pretty low. You can have a lot of units of skeletons if you wanted to, but you're not really that bothered. Also, you can return D3 slain models to this unit at the end of each turn. So D3 is 1 to 3 health. I reckon we could do better than that, right? So there we go. Okay, so basically Death Rattle Skeletons, which I didn't get to cover in the main review because I forgot, I'm sorry, they suck. So don't take them. And is it sad that they suck? It is. But maybe they'll be like 40 points for 10. And then they won't suck as much. So that's good. For 10 Death Rattles, I'd probably pay 80 points. Because there's a point where it gets so cheap that I can just have so many that it's your problem, not my problem. So, yeah, anyway. Right, so the White Lord and Skeletal Steed is going to be super important. And we'll come back to him in a moment, right? But we're going to talk about the Barrow Guard because we're still talking about infantry, right? So now we're going for a different infantry unit. Again, 10 models, reinforceable to 20, 1 health, but they've got a 4-up save now. That's a little bit better for what we want from a combat unit. They've got a 6-up ward save. Love that as well. But importantly, they've got the White Blade, which has got 2 attacks each. So now we're going to have 20 attacks from 10, 41 attacks from 20. 3s and 3s, way better than 4s and 4s. And they rend 1. All right, okay. And then damage 1. Okay, cool. So anti-rend on the charge, which is pretty nice. Yeah, I'm going to be able to get anti-charge, sorry. I'm going to get +1 rend, but only when I'm near my terrain feature. So it's going to take me up to terrain 2. But again, only when I'm near. Also, from battle round 3, I'll have pseudo +1 rend because my opponent will have -1 save to all their units. Pretty nice. Unfortunately, the Barrow Guard have got crit mortals, right? They've got crit mortals, which is a little bit like kind of doing the same job twice because crit mortals or mortal damage punches through armor saves. So I'm already getting those mortals and I'm not restricted to waiting till later turns. And I'm also not restricted to wait until turn 3. Oh, sorry, being near the terrain feature. So I'm not restricted to either of those two. In addition, while you're within any friendly Soulblight Gravelords infantry heroes are within this unit's combat range, then they have a 5-up ward save. So already these are much, much better. 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save near a hero, and they can be a little bit fighty. That's good. They're move 4, which is bad, but obviously you can move them a little bit faster. Now, if you were to be playing with the main army traits, you could also put some of these units in the grave, which would help you with that movement, so you'll be able to move further up the board. So these are better than the skeletons, which are genuinely garbage. And they might kind of serve a purpose. 20 health with a 4-up, 5-up is not anything that's too bad, to be honest. But no magical support in this army means that like debuffs can happen, a bunch of other stuff. Now, this gives me an opportunity to talk about Barrow Knights, which is great because this is really what we're here for. We're really talking about Barrow Knights being played in the main army, not this army. So Barrow Knights is a unit of 5 cavalry with 3 health and a 4-up save, and they move 10 inches. They've got +1 damage on the charge. So that means a unit of 5 is going to be 15 health, but a unit of 10 is going to be 30 health, 15, 30 health. So it's already got a larger health pool than the Barrow Guard or the Skeletons can put together. However, if we're just talking about pure survivability for this unit, if they're within if they're within combat range of a death threat or cavalry hero, they're going to have a 5-up ward save. So now you've got 30 health on a 4-up, 5-up. In addition, you have at the end of any turn, which is the end of every turn, and is not locked to once per unit, you have Curse to Rise Once More, the ability where you can return 1 slain model to this unit. So that's much better than the Skeleton's Return D3, because Return D3 is 1 to 3 health. With the Barrow Knights, you're going to return definitely 3 every single turn, even if you're in combat. And also, if we take that trait that we talked about earlier, you could also put another one back in every hero phase as well. That's pretty nice. Very, very effective. But because I'm probably going to take 20 to 30 Barrow Knights, that means that maybe 45 Barrow Knights, to be honest. That means that from every unit, I can put 3 health back. So let's say I've just taken 30 Barrow Knights. I can put 9 health back into my army at the end of every turn. That's quite a lot to put in, to be honest. And then when we talk about their output is okay. But output's a kind of interesting conversation to have in armies, because really, is the job to kill something or is their job just to be there? Okay, so hopefully I've really showcased just how good Barrow Knights are. And I think in the main Soulblight Gravelords book, where you're going to be able to have Wizard and Wizard support, also where you're going to, in addition to those 2 things, be able to bring in other little clutch key units that are quite fun to use, or big smashing monsters or something else. That's going to be very, very effective. So the Barrow Knights are really strong, and arguably, if they come in at the same price as Black Knights that they're replacing, then you're gonna, which were 180 points for 5, you're going to have a real problem. So this means 360 for 10, which means you're going to get about 30 for, near 1,100 points. That's a real problem, because 90 health. You do have to have a hero as well. Your hero is going to be the White Lord and Skeletal Steed. He also adds 1 to charge rolls for friendly death threat or cavalry while they're in the 12. And in the main army, you're also able to get you're able to take a battle formation. We get +1 rend on the charge. You also, in this army, don't want to be having Barrow Knights who get +1 damage on the charge be charged, so that they get +1 rend. So there's like no bonuses really for taking them in this army. This Army of Renown is unfortunately disappointing. I've tried really hard to think of like a sexy reason why you would want to run this Army of Renown. It's not good. It doesn't function with the units inside of it. It's lacking key components of how you play the army. Especially compared to the main army. And also, with that limited roster, doesn't really do anything to improve the quality of the roster, which I think is really bad as well. It's almost like they were written without the battle scrolls in context, which seems odd. I hate making these videos. I like reviewing content. I think it's fun. I wish more content was more fun to review. In Age of Sigmar at the moment, that's a little bit of a disappointing element for me. But I think maybe being silent on the issue would be more of a problem than just talking about it. So I'm talking about it and saying, hey, this is a little lame. But Barrow Knights are going to be really good if you're a Soulblight Gravelords fan, until they eventually probably will get a points adjustment. I got to say that it does feel like that end of any turn, bring 1 back has got to be something that you see get nerfed very early. I don't know, could be wrong, might not be. It might be much stronger than I give it credit for. If you think something different, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't pick a bone with me. Yeah, let's cut to the bone of it. I don't know, thanks, bye.